Welcome to one more edition of Politics and Right. I'm Egberto Willis, your host. I'm honored here to be with a young man that I have the utmost respect for,
Yes.
Sedrick Keeler. Sedrick Keeler is first and foremost a Houston and national activist, numero uno. Numero dos, he's the host of A Conscious Mindset at KPFT, a Pacifica Network station. But what I have always admired Sedrick the most for is his work within the community, the school district, as an educator, where he doesn't only talk. You have a lot of folks that only talk, but he's a part of it. Sedrick, how are you doing today, my brother?
You know what? As I said before, it's a privilege, pleasure, and honor to be in your presence. You are a light worker, a beacon of hope. And as I said before, brother, you are doing the necessary things that are keeping us woke in a real way and authentically giving us information that's helping us become more activated and engaged and more aware of the importance of our participation in creating not only a better nation, but a more perfect and perfected union. So as the quote was stated by a wonderful speaker by the name of Richard M. DeVos, he says, "Few things in the world are more powerful than a positive push," and that's what you bring, brother, and a smile, and hopefully that's what we're going to bring tonight to the folk out there, because he goes on to say, he says, "A world of optimism and hope, you can do it." That kind of spirit will overcome all of those things that are tough, all of those things that are challenging, all of those things that we thought were difficult. We'll be able to not only overcome, but come to a greater understanding of ourselves, our purpose, and the well-being of our nation. So I'm happy, I'm excited, I'm motivated, I'm elated, I'm ready to rock and roll because I'm engaged, because I'm on Politics Done Right.
All right, we're going
one of the most righteous brothers on the planet.
Let me tell you something. First of all, though, I appreciate that. Today it's all about you. So I want to get a little bit deeper. You just recently wrote a book, and
Yes, sir.
the book is going to be on this interview as well.
Yes, sir.
And in going through the book today, you and I have been in contact for a long time. There is the book. Excellent. You Are Powerful by Sedrick Keeler. It is at Amazon. Please, folks, go ahead and support all these activists by getting their book and reading the book. Now, that book, you used over the years,
Yes, sir.
I've learned a lot from you. I would pick up every morning. I would be waiting for this message, okay? There's a message that I got every morning from you on a text. I guess I was on your text roll.
Yes,
And
sir.
it would always give an inspirational message.
Yes, sir.
And that message would take you through the day. And I remember replying to the text one time, and I say, "Don't stop sending these, brother, because I read every one of them." And guess what? I open your book and notice that some of that inspiration is in 365 pages of
That's right.
your book.
That's
I
right.
mean,
Absolutely.
I tapped 365 of those messages in your book, and I was like, wow, that it is a book that really empowers. So
Absolutely.
tell us a little bit about it.
So what it is we were talking with our dear friend, and hopefully he can come on your program if he hasn't already. His name is Stephen Schwartz, and he's a scientist. And he and I had a dialogue and discussion, and he was talking about the importance of meditation. And I'd been meditating for years and, learning about it, studying Phil Jackson because he used it with Zen with some of his players, not only with the Chicago Bulls and the 6 championships that they won, but also with the LA Lakers and the 3 championships that they won as well. So it was very effective in engaging his players to get outside of the ills and the ego and all of the things that separate us from our natural peace and our state of mind. Right? So I was able to learn from these things. And in talking to Mr. Schwartz, or Scientist Schwartz, he said the most key and important thing is the morning, and how we can begin to program ourselves to not only focus on those things that we must do, but to focus on those things that are even more important, which is the positive energy we must begin to reflect, resonate, and express, so that we can begin to manifest and create those positive things. I know a lot of people have talked about a lot of self-help and a lot of positivity, and all of those things are great or grand and gravy. But one of the things that really emanated in my mind as he was sharing the scientific data, but he was talking about our cells even respond to energy that is of a higher vibration. And it made me begin to think, thoughts are things, thoughts are vibrations. The words that you hear coming out of my mouth, they're vibrations, and they're going inside your ear and processed by your brain, right? But they're not only coming out of my mouth, they're also going back in my ear. So the meditations that I began to write 10 years ago were not only for others, because I share them with others, hopefully to inspire and invigorate and engage and enlighten, hopefully. But it was also for me to be able to check myself and to deliver myself and to also be able to hold myself to a higher standard. So in doing that, a friend of mine a few years ago said, hey, why don't you compile them and put them in a book? And I said, I don't know if anybody would want to read anything like that. I mean, there's a litany of things out there. But you know what I did, Egberto? I studied and I found there was not a devotional or something that was daily in terms of 365 with meditations that were scientifically driven to get people to focus on the things at which would bring peace, will bring the relaxation, as neuroscientists and other doctors I've talked about. Our body is either in fight or flight or it's in relaxation. And many times we find ourselves, especially with this political climate, and you know as well as anyone, brother, how important it is to decompress and to debrief from all of this chaos and madness that's ensuing in our society and really all around the world for that matter. But to be able to get into relaxation mode, your brain can begin to process information more effectively, more efficiently. You can become more productive, more constructive. And then even according to John Hopkins, your cells can begin to not only de-stress, but you can begin to lower your blood pressure and eliminate some of the propensity for strokes and cardiac arrest, heart attacks, things of that nature. So you begin to almost transform yourself or renew your mind just by recalibrating in the morning with the meditation, with the prayer, with the moment of silence. And what we were striving to do is to get people to go within and begin to breathe. And then they can be inspired to believe that we can rise higher than the difficulties in which we face. I'll say this and then I'll close my mouth because I've probably been pontificating, signifying too much, but I'm fired up because this is such an important discussion, is inspiration. The word inspiration is Latin, and the root of the word is in breath. So when we're breathing in the breath, we're not only having life, but the Latins taught that by breathing in that life, we're able to tap into an energy, to a divinity that will not only give us the ability to be able to process our situations more effectively and correctly, but then we can begin to work with wisdom to bring others in a more collaborative and cooperative manner to begin to change and rectify situations with positivity. And that's what we're striving to do. And everyone who has taken a look at the book and used it habitually and used it every single day, which you can do. And that's what we're striving for folk to do. And don't just sit down and read it once. Hopefully you'll read it day by day by day. And then you'll see things begin to chip away. Your sight will become clearer and your insight will become more potent. And you will realize that you are powerful.
No, I was on your show few weeks ago,
I
and I
love you,
told you.
brother. I mean, you're the best, man. You're the
No,
best guest
but
I
I
ever had,
told
man.
you,
Truly,
I
you.
got to get your book. I'd seen your book out there, and then I said, man, I got to go get the book. And then I was glad to get it, but then after starting to read it, I'm like, well, I think for the most part, Sedrick has enlightened me with a whole lot of this stuff already. But let me tell you something. Um, it is great seeing all of this stuff in one place. But you just said something that's important. Anytime I hear the word science, I get excited because there are a lot of snake oil salespeople out there trying to tell you, oh, this is how I can make your life better. This is how I can go ahead and make you, get. What I like about the different thoughts that you put out there is that you make sure that people are centered, right? These are all centering messages. But
Correct.
here's the kicker, because here's how I know it works. The work that I do is very stressful. I work 16 hours a day, and I meet a whole lot of people, and and you know, people, their stresses would normally go on you. But I tell you, the fact that I'm around, the fact that I've read a whole lot of your stuff, and it teaches you how to take the best out of every situation,
Wow.
right? So I am with you. I'm enhanced. I am with my audience on Politics Done Right. Uh, both the ones who love the show and those who are objecting to much of our progressive values. I take all the positive energy out of those people. A lot of people ask, how do you tolerate these people, right?
Correct.
The reason is that I programmed myself using some of your techniques, some of the techniques of others as well, to tell myself, right? I can actually turn, to put it in the old fashioned way, turn lemons into lemonade, right?
Right.
So I think if more of us could just absorb those tenets, and not only absorb them, Cedric, but actually live by them, and realize that it is really scientific. I like the way that you put blood pressure and strokes and all of that in, because it is known that certain types of stresses put cortisol into your bloodstream,
Correct.
which
Correct.
causes problems. So this
Correct.
is scientific, really.
Correct.
And the thing about it is, how do you teach people to follow that modal? Go ahead, my
Well,
friend.
the thing is this, brother, and you mentioned something that's so apropos and important, is that this is biological. And the way that we have to understand, and I think it's important that we discuss this, because you mentioned snake oil salesmen. People see that this is a billion-dollar industry of self-help.
Right.
And we also know that people are not going to get the correct information from them, so they'll come back for more. All they do is say some good sounding stuff and, you know, pick up a nice little rhyme and maybe use some alliteration, and people will come back time and time again because it feels
Yes.
good, but it dissipates because it doesn't deal with the core issues. Is that we cannot continue to think that doing the same things and thinking that things will change is going to work. No, we have to do something different, and we have to do it with the kind of conviction that causes us to go into the unknown, because the comfort zone, or as they used to call it, the dead zone, because nothing grows there,
Right.
it will stifle our ability, and it will keep us in a state of mind that we become stagnant. And in nature, things are growing or they're dying. They're evolving or they're de-evolving, right? They're progressing. And that's why I love how you said progressive ideas. People need to understand that either you're progressing or you're digressing,
Right.
right? Right. So that's critically important. So as we begin to deal with these things, and this is what I really love to convey to people when people ask me, you know, why did you title it that? I said, you are powerful.
Right.
So this is just a baseline. This is just a template you can use and utilize. And in using it, then you'll begin to tap into the spiritual Wi-Fi, as I like to call it, or the human Wi-Fi for those that prefer that nomenclature. You tap into that, and then you can begin to elevate and correlate the information with how it best works for you. Because it's not one size fits all, but it's being able to tap into who you are and what works best for you. And you realizing that you are powerful, and knowing and understanding that then gives you the ability to accept yourself. Because we live in a world that judges us constantly and consistently. As a matter of fact, most of the vehicles and the tools and the modalities that we use are using our data against us, are creating algorithms to sell things to us, to persuade us that we are somehow inadequate. So we'll buy the 2020 version.
That
And then next year,
is
we're going to
so
buy the
important.
2021,
That is
right?
why knowing self is so important, because that is a magic of capitalism, right? In all, you have to keep producing, you have to
You
keep
have to.
consuming,
You
and
have
if you
to.
want to have permanent consumption, you have to keep creating needs, whether true or not. If you
Right.
look at the drug industry, you see that in the drug industry they have to create all these illnesses. Oh, your foot moves a lot,
Right.
there's a drug for
Christmas
that.
thanks
Oh, your
That's
eyes
right.
blink a lot,
That's
there's a
right.
drug for that, and they
That's
create,
right.
everything becomes a disease. Now,
That's right.
this is politics done right, Cedric. Okay, so
I know
we
it.
are going to evolve a lot of what your good thoughts and what you do. And by the way, Cedric's program on KPFT is called conscious mindset. Please tell me when
Sunday nights, 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. Central Standard Time. And you can tap in on the Mighty 90, that's 90.1 KPFT, 89.5 in Galveston, 91.9 in Huntsville, where it's real, or anywhere else on the World Wide Web at kpft.org. And if you prefer to see the video, then you can go on Facebook, and we always have a show starting at 7:30 p.m. Central Standard Time and going all the way to 12. But what we're striving to do on that particular program is, in essence, what this book is about, because this is the most important time in the history of man, in my opinion. And I've done enough study of research of history to be able to comport that with some sense of validity and sincerity, because we are faced, because you mentioned politics done right, we are faced with one of the most important choices in the history of not only our country, but every country on this planet. And if we do not get this right, if we do not focus on what is right, if we do not get caught up in the propaganda and get used by the Edward Bernays tactics that are being used by those that would like to submerge us back into a time in which decadence and destruction was normal, in which hatred and xenophobia was natural, and in which folk were marginalized and disenfranchised as a birthright. What we have to do is stand up for what is right. And doing that requires that we begin to elevate our consciousness and not be controlled like lemmings, and not be misled like sheep, but we begin to realize that we the people have the power. And that's why this book is so important. You Are Powerful begins to get us to realize that it's not about our elected officials. It's about us electing the kind of consciousness in which says, this is what we demand, this is what we require, this is what we want you to do. And a lot of people say, oh, that's pie in the sky, it won't work. It's too many CPACs, it's too many lobbyists, it's too many this, it's too many that. But you saw over the course of this summer, my brother, because you well documented it, because I watched numerous of your shows and gleaned an enormous amount of information and saw how the people got in the streets, and saw how the young people engaged on social media, and saw how so many people were activated and engaged and totally committed with a sense of efficacy hadn't seen since the 60s. That's a tongue twister right there. But it was so important for us to realize that we have the power, that we are the ones that we're waiting on, and there's no more time to wait or waste. Because we have 86,400 seconds, 1,440 minutes that we're so blessed with. And that's why we call it the present, because it is a present. And it's a gift that we have to give our focus, our attention, our tenacity, our sagacity, our veracity, to be able to create the kind of reality that we can give to our grandchildren. Because I know, dear brother, you have a wonderful daughter. I had an opportunity to meet her and your lovely wife. And I know that you are doing everything, those 16 hours you're spending that time, to ensure that they live in a world that's better, that they live in a world that's more peaceful, that they live in a world with more opportunities, and that they have the opportunity to be to the fullest of their potential. And that's simply done by us realizing that we are the ones that we're waiting for.
Lift that book up again, because I like to see I love your title. We are the powerful. Let me see that book again, man. Let me see that book again.
You are powerful.
And you are powerful.
And we don't say that just as a moniker or a cliche, but I tell people this every day. And you mentioned the students, they love this. They get a kick out of this.
I know. Hold on a second, Sedrick. I want to tell people this story, right? Like I say, a lot of us talk, right? And some of us act. I just got a little message from Sedrick, say, hey, there's some kids in an underserved neighborhood. They need to see male figures. Can you go out there and do it? And you arrange to get a whole lot of bodies out there to be examples to kids. And and I remember it was a busy time when you asked me.
Yes.
And my wife is like, but Berta, you have all this to do and that. And I said, you know what? Sedrick said that he needed somebody out there, and he needed somebody to be an example. And I would be damned if I'm not going to cut something else to go out and do that. But what gets me most, right, is you had there were enough. When I saw people who you know out there, there were enough people who know the work that you do in the community to know that they don't tell you no when it's time to go ahead and perform their duty out there. But
Wow.
Sedrick, we only have about 4 more minutes, so here's what I want to ask you.
Yes, sir.
I need you to tell me what do you think about the upcoming election? Give us some advice.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We cannot believe the polls. We cannot believe the hubris and the pious attitudes that this has already won. I won't go into it in depth because we have a short time brevity, but this statement was made by somebody who was very affiliated with the Republican Party. And they said, this is war and we have to win at all costs. What we saw today was war. We saw someone get into the Supreme Court to become a jurist. They'll be there for 40 to 50 years and they will decide our lives. This is serious and we can't play about it. And we can no longer think that, oh, they're going to win the national poll or Biden is trending 7. That's garbage. That's garbage. On November 3rd, people have to be there. You've had Greg Palast on your show. You've had others. They are doing everything they can to voter suppress. They're burning ballot boxes. They're putting up fake ballot boxes. They're having guns and militias at the polls. This is a time for us to galvanize and come together and put aside our differences and coalesce around the fact that we have to keep our union together. We have to keep equality alive. We have to keep righteousness here. Otherwise, that dark, psychic, evil force that Ms. Williams referred to, and it was so true, it will not only become more dangerous and exacerbated, but it will cause our young children to lose faith. And this is something I say and I'll close out. Our children, for the first time in their lives, they are afraid. They're afraid. They're not afraid of the boogeyman. They're afraid of their president, right? And they're afraid of the sycophants who are doing things that are so disastrous to this country that the fabric and the fiber of this nation is decimated. And for us to say that, we got to put aside our differences about our dislikes, about some of the neoliberal and the capitalist things that Joe has done. We got to push him on that. We got to definitely make sure that he holds himself accountable to a progressive agenda. And we got to hold Bernie accountable too. Don't just go along with them and don't just, placate. No, we need the kind of revolutionary spirit that's emanated in this work and other works like your book. People need to tap into it because this is not sitting on the sidelines. This is tag, you're it, as Hartman says, because it's going to take each and every person to get out there and do everything in their power to win this. Because if not, the same hubris and the same piety that people had in 2016 will cause Donald J. Trump to be, again, the president of the free world. And then you will see a change. And as Pat Robertson, I'll close with this, Pat Robertson said, he said that in 5 years, there'll be an asteroid that hits the world. I don't think it'll be an asteroid, but I think that Donald Trump will do everything he can in his power to destroy what we love so much and what we've given so much to and what's given so much to us. And it deserves that we protect it even with our lives.
Sedrick Keeler, activist, educator, radio host, media host, and author of You Are Powerful.
You mind if I read one just real quick?
Please do.
Too many let the chaos of the world change their smiles to frown and steal their joy. There comes a time in life when we must rise above all the drama and walk away from the people who create it. Today, let us focus on being hopeful, successful, peaceful, accentuate the positive, eliminate the negative, refuse to waste time and energy blaming others for the things we know we can accomplish, regardless of what we may face. We are far more productive when we face it, knowing we will conquer it by feeling ourselves that we are powerful and freeing ourselves from bitterness and all the nonsense, focusing on positive, productive, and constructive solutions to solve our problems and uplift ourselves from darkness. You are powerful.
Sedrick Keeler, thank you so kindly for having been on Politics Done Right.
Appreciate you, dear brother. Thank you so much.
We spend a lot of time deconstructing the news, trying to parse it into a form that everybody can understand. We try to find those little nitpicks where it flies above the fray, etc. If you really like these videos that we do, I want to ask a big favor. Please go ahead. Number one, subscribe to our channel, and number two, please join if you can. Thank you so kindly for watching. Keep watching. Please remember to share. We must populate the entire internet with our progressive message, a message that we know is what most Americans say that they want. So help us, please join.